And so before I went, I drew some storyboards for the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Ridley Scott doesn't make films. He constructs cinematic empires. For over 5 decades, this visual architect has built worlds that feel more real than reality itself. From ancient Rome to distant planets, Scott transforms sound stages into universes where every shadow serves a purpose. Behind those piercing eyes and meticulous planning lives something unexpected. Scott remains endlessly fascinated by the human element that brings his elaborate constructions to life. While others focus on technology or spectacle, he understands that great filmmaking begins and ends with authentic performance. Scott approaches casting like a master chef selecting ingredients. Each actor must complement the overall vision while bringing unique flavor to their role. He's worked with hundreds of performers across genres and decades, but only a select few have earned his complete creative trust. These aren't his biggest stars or most bankable names. They're the artists who share his obsession with detail, his appetite for perfection, and his understanding that extraordinary stories require extraordinary commitment from everyone involved. Scott collects these performers like rare artifacts, returning to them project after project because he knows they'll deliver exactly what his ambitious visions demand. Here are the 6 actors Ridley Scott treasures most, the ones who prove that great cinema requires more than great direction. 6th Oscar Isaac Ridley Scott discovered a rare breed of performer in Oscar Isaac, though their collaboration came relatively late in both men's careers. Here was someone who approached period pieces with the intensity of a historian and the instincts of a natural-born storyteller. What distinguished Isaac wasn't his versatility or his dramatic training. It was his ability to make ancient characters feel utterly contemporary without breaking historical authenticity.
It's an internal story where a hunter falls in love with his quarry.
Scott watched him inhabit complex roles with surgical precision, finding modern relevance in classical material. Isaac operated with the kind of meticulous preparation that Scott demanded from his entire creative team. He researched characters like archaeological expeditions, uncovering layers of motivation that lesser actors never bothered to explore. His commitment to authenticity matched Scott's own obsessive attention to historical detail. What impressed Scott most was Isaac's fearless embrace of morally ambiguous characters who defied easy categorization. He specialized in men caught between competing loyalties, torn between duty and desire. Isaac proved that complexity was more interesting than simplicity. Their working relationship revealed Isaac's genuine curiosity about filmmaking beyond his own performance. He asked questions about visual choices, narrative structure, and historical accuracy that demonstrated his investment in the entire project rather than just his scenes. For Scott, Isaac represented the evolution of classical acting, someone who could honor tradition while embracing innovation, serving both historical accuracy and contemporary relevance. 5. Walken Phoenix. Ridley Scott encountered his most unpredictable creative partner in Walken Phoenix, though unpredictable undersells the volcanic intensity Phoenix brought to every collaboration. Here was someone who made creative danger feel like artistic necessity. What captivated Scott wasn't Phoenix's famous method approach or his emotional volatility. It was his ability to access psychological territories that other actors marked as off-limits. Phoenix could channel madness, obsession, and brilliant instability with equal facility, creating characters who felt genuinely alive rather than merely performed. Scott studied Phoenix's preparation rituals with fascination and occasional concern.
The criteria was, there's the script, you've got Office 2012 in the television center.
The man didn't just research roles. He disappeared into them completely, emerging from character work fundamentally changed by the experience. That kind of total immersion produced results that no amount of traditional training could achieve. Behind cameras, Phoenix maintained the same electric unpredictability that marked his performances. Professional, but dangerous. Collaborative, but uncontainable. Scott learned to create environments where Phoenix's instincts could flourish without destroying carefully planned production schedules. Their collaborations taught Scott something valuable about directing volatile talent, that some performers required freedom to explore rather than strict guidance to follow. Phoenix showed him that controlled chaos could produce extraordinary results if handled with sufficient skill and patience. For Scott, Phoenix represented pure artistic courage, the reminder that great cinema sometimes required accepting creative risks that could either elevate or destroy entire projects. Fourth, Russell Crowe. Ridley Scott found his most reliable leading man in Russell Crowe, though their partnership transcended typical director-actor relationships into something resembling creative brotherhood. Here was someone who shared Scott's appetite for epic storytelling and demanding physical preparation. What connected Scott to Crowe wasn't his natural charisma or his dramatic range. It was his fearless commitment to serving stories that required genuine sacrifice from everyone involved. Crowe approached challenging roles like military campaigns, preparing with intensity that matched Scott's own obsessive planning. Scott watched Crowe transform himself physically and psychologically for multiple projects, appreciating his willingness to endure real discomfort for authentic performance. Whether gaining muscle mass or learning combat techniques, Crowe never asked for shortcuts or substitutes. Behind cameras, Crowe maintained professional standards that inspired rather than intimidated cast and crew members, demanding but supportive, perfectionist but collaborative. Scott valued his ability to lead through example rather than authority.
If I match it and get it, and I get close-up and wide two-shot from here and here.
What impressed Scott most was Crowe's evolution from intense character actor to believable leading man without losing his essential edge. He proved that masculine strength could coexist with emotional vulnerability, that heroes could be complex without becoming weak. Their multiple collaborations revealed Crowe's genuine understanding of Scott's visual storytelling approach. He adjusted his performance style to complement cinematography, editing rhythms, and musical choices, rather than competing with them for audience attention. Third, Sigourney Weaver. Ridley Scott discovered something revolutionary in Sigourney Weaver, though revolution undersells her impact on both his career and science fiction cinema generally. Here was someone who redefined what female strength could look like without sacrificing intelligence or authenticity. What distinguished Weaver wasn't her physical presence or her dramatic training, it was her ability to make extraordinary circumstances feel utterly believable through precise emotional choices. Scott watched her navigate impossible situations with logical responses that grounded fantasy in recognizable human behavior. Weaver operated with the same attention to practical detail that marked Scott's own filmmaking approach. She researched character backgrounds, understood technical equipment, and asked questions that demonstrated genuine investment in story credibility rather than personal screen time. Behind cameras, Weaver maintained a professional focus that elevated everyone's commitment to the project. She treated genre material with identical seriousness she brought to prestigious dramatic roles, proving that science fiction deserved respect from serious performers.
But she has the authority of a male, and that had to be her.
What impressed Scott most was Weaver's fearless embrace of physical demands that other actresses avoided or delegated to stunt doubles. She understood that authentic performance sometimes required genuine discomfort and real danger. Weaver taught Scott that great science fiction required great acting to make impossible stories feel inevitable, that audiences would accept any premise if performers committed completely to its internal logic. For Scott, Weaver represented genre evolution, the proof that intelligent filmmaking could transform exploitation concepts into sophisticated entertainment worthy of serious critical attention. Second, Shaun Bean. Ridley Scott found his most dependable character actor in Shaun Bean. Though dependable undersells the complex magnetism Bean brought to supporting roles that elevated entire films. Here was someone who understood that memorable characters could be built from carefully chosen details rather than obvious personality traits. What attracted Scott to Bean wasn't his classical training or his versatility.
We were actually we might run out of scares and creepy things in the corridor. So the new thing,
it was his ability to suggest entire backstories through minimal screen time. Bean could establish character history, motivation, and internal conflict with the economy that made exposition unnecessary. What impressed Scott most was Bean's willingness to accept roles that other actors avoided because they lacked obvious glory or guaranteed survival. He proved that supporting characters could steal scenes without stealing focus from the main narrative. Their multiple collaborations revealed Bean's intuitive understanding of Scott's visual storytelling style. He adjusted his performance rhythms to complement cinematography and editing, rather than fighting for attention through unnecessary theatrical choices. Bean taught Scott that great ensemble filmmaking required actors who understood their function within a larger artistic vision, that some performers could be trusted to enhance stories without overwhelming them. For Scott, Bean represented perfect supporting performance, the reminder that great films were built from accumulation of excellent choices rather than single brilliant moments. 1. Harrison Ford. Ridley Scott discovered his most complex leading man in Harrison Ford, though their relationship defied simple categorization as successful collaboration. Here was someone who brought intelligent skepticism to roles that could easily become simple heroic archetypes. What fascinated Scott wasn't Ford's natural charisma or his action hero credentials. It was his ability to suggest moral uncertainty beneath surface confidence. Ford specialized in characters who questioned their own choices while maintaining external authority that audiences could follow.
Otherwise, you can spin a lot of wheels and waste a lot of time. So when I began, I didn't start until I'm 40 years old.
What impressed Scott most was Ford's evolution from action star to complex dramatic performer without abandoning his essential appeal. He proved that maturity could enhance rather than diminish screen presence if approached with sufficient intelligence and commitment. Their collaboration established a template for science fiction protagonists who could carry philosophical weight alongside physical action. Ford showed Scott that audiences would embrace intellectual complexity if it was presented through compelling character development. Ford taught Scott that great filmmaking required performers who could embody thematic concerns without explicitly stating them, that the best actors made abstract concepts feel personal and immediate. For Scott, Ford represented the ideal leading man, someone who could anchor ambitious projects while challenging everyone involved to achieve their highest potential. Ridley Scott built a career on impossible visions made manifest. These 6 actors taught him that the most elaborate worlds mean nothing without authentic human hearts beating at their center. That partnership between director and performer remains cinema's most essential magic.